Today would have been Wendy's 50th birthday. She was born on Easter Sunday in 1970 in Montreal. Wendy was the firstborn child to Marge and Stan Parker, and she was the center of their world, at least in the beginning. I'm not saying she was spoiled or anything, but Dad built her a sailboat for her first birthday. Wendy was definitely a 70s child. She grew up at a time before seatbelts were mandatory. And apparently, neither were life jackets. Her early childhood instilled in her a deep love of nature and of the outdoors, of sitting around a fire, and is probably responsible for her mad love of color and slightly questionable fashion sense. Wendy would eventually have to share Mom and Dad, as it wasn't long before Keith and I came along. I think this picture really shows the joy she got from her siblings, but she did take her role as big sister very seriously. She was our fearless leader. Even as a kid, Wendy wasn't afraid of anything. Snakes, bats, bugs, spiders, dead things, nothing fazed her. Everything fascinated her. She was our teacher, role model, and often our entertainment. She was always creating clubs of which she was the president, or making up games to which only she knew the rules. She was the darker Parker, mainly because she was always surrounded by blonde, which was a trend that seemed to continue throughout her life. It wasn't just blondes that were drawn to Wendy. She loved all animals, but especially dogs. In fact, I think it was Jerry's dog whispering skills that ultimately won Wendy over. Wendy's transition from the curious flower princess only paused for a moment in the awkward 80s before she went on to bloom into the beautiful flower queen we all knew and loved. When Wendy met Jerry in 2003, her whole world would change. With Jer, Wendy could live the life she was always meant to, out in the country. Yes, there would be lots of laughter and love. Jerry brought out Wendy's playful side, for sure. But more importantly, with Jerry, Wendy could follow in her parents' footsteps and build her dream house. Wendy could do what she did best. Wendy was wildly creative and multi-talented. She loved learning and was never afraid to try something new, and usually mastered it, whether it be tiling, quilting, photography, rock work, or gardening. Wendy brought beauty to everything she did. She was also very passionate about what she believed in. She was the Schroeder promoter, or perhaps Crusader Schrader, depending on who you talk to and how you pronounce the name. Wendy was passionately opposed to genetically modified foods, single-use plastics, and she urged us all to be mindful of our impact on the planet. An intelligent and articulate writer, she had letters and articles published questioning the safety of hail seeding and called for the banning of leg-hold traps. Wendy promoted living a life in balance with nature and loved nourishing her community through her beautiful garden, and was always willing to share her knowledge to her online followers or at her apothecary. Woman of the earth, goddess of nature, earth angel, These were all terms used by her friends to describe her on her condolences page. Wendy was so connected with nature, she even paused to pick up a rock on her wedding day at her special place down at the river. The day she married the love of her life and her best friend. When Wendy first died 8 months ago, Jerry and I were looking for a photo we could use for her obituary and the announcement. But of the hundreds of pictures of her, there were very few we could actually use. Because in all of her best pictures, she was squishing her face into Jerry's or some other silliness. She was always her most beautiful by Jerry's side. Wendy was a remarkable woman, gone far too soon, and missed by so many. Happy birthday, Wendy. I wish you were here.